letting go sounds peaceful until life asks you to actually do it. It sounds beautiful when it's a quote on a screen. It sounds spiritual when someone says, just surrender your problems to God. But when you are the one being asked to release the thing that you are holding on to, it doesn't always feel like peace. It can feel like death. It can feel like you're losing your grip on the only thing that made you feel safe. And this is why letting go feels so terrifying. Because most of the time, you are not only letting go of a situation, you are letting go of the person you became while trying to control that situation. And that can feel like you're losing yourself. But what if you're not losing yourself? What if you are losing the version of you that was built around fear? There is a very real pain in surrender. People talk about letting go like it's gentle. Sometimes it is. But sometimes it feels like your whole nervous system is fighting against it. You want peace, but you also want certainty. You want freedom, but you also want control. You want God to guide you, but you also want God to explain every detail before you move. And underneath all of that, there is usually a deeper fear. If I let this go, who will I be? Because you may have organized your whole life around this one thing. You may have built your personality around surviving in it. You may have built your prayers around needing it to change. You may have built your identity around proving that one day, everything you suffered through would finally make sense. So when life asks you to release it, the mind panics. Not because the thing itself was always good for you, but because the thing became familiar. And the familiar can feel like home, even when it's hurting you. That is the trap. The mind will confuse familiarity with safety. It will confuse attachment with love. It will confuse control with strength. And when God begins loosening your grip, the ego says, I'm disappearing. But the soul may be saying, finally. The mind creates a false self around what it believes it must keep. If you had to be strong for too long, the mind may create an identity around never needing anyone. If you were rejected, the mind may create an identity around proving your worth. If you were betrayed, the mind may create an identity around never trusting again. If life felt chaotic, the mind may create an identity around controlling every possible outcome before it happens. And eventually, you stop noticing that it's not your true self. It's armor. It's protection. It's a survival pattern that stayed too long. You begin to say, this is just who I am. But is it? Or is it who you had to become in order to survive a season that wounded you? This is where letting go becomes sacred. Because God is not only asking you to release the outer attachment, He is revealing the inner structure that attachment was holding together. The need to be chosen. The need to be right. The need to never feel powerless again. And that is why surrender feels so personal. It's not just let go of the outcome. It's let go of the false self that needed this outcome in order to feel real. That's a much deeper surrender. The mind wants God to be something it can use to preserve the self it already built. But God is not an object the mind can use to keep its illusions intact. God is not here to decorate the prison. God is not here to make fear more comfortable. God is not here to help the false self become more spiritually impressive. Sometimes grace does not come as confirmation. Sometimes grace comes as interruption. Sometimes God does not give you what you are clinging to, because what you are clinging to is keeping you from receiving what is real. And that's hard to accept, because the mind says, If God loved me, He would let me keep this. But the deeper truth may be, because God loves you, He will not let you become permanently identified with what is breaking you. Letting go feels like losing yourself, because the self you were losing was never the deepest you. It was the frightened construction, the defended personality, the anxious manager, the one who believed peace could only come after everything was controlled. But God is not found at the end of perfect control. God is found when control finally becomes too heavy to worship. In the hidden stream of early mystical Gnosticism, there is a deep emphasis on awakening from false identity. The soul forgets where it came from. It becomes entangled in the world of appearances. It mistakes the temporary for the eternal. It mistakes the constructed self for the living truth within. This is the ancient mirror. The problem is not simply that you suffer. The problem is that suffering convinces you to become someone false in order to survive. Then you spend years defending that false self, as if it were your soul. The Nag Hammadi texts often point toward remembrance, not becoming something new in the egoic sense, but remembering what was real, before fear named you, before pain shaped you, before the world told you what you had to be. Letting go is painful, because it feels like the false name is being stripped away. But beneath that false name, something quieter remains. Something not built from panic. Something not dependent on approval. Something not destroyed by uncertainty. Something that is closer to the truth of you. Not everything you are afraid to lose is meant to stay. And not every version of yourself you are afraid to lose is truly you. Some parts of you are trauma responses with a spiritual vocabulary. Some parts of you are fear patterns dressed up as wisdom. Some parts are control mechanisms pretending to be discernment. And some parts are your old wounds calling themselves personality. That doesn't mean you shame yourself. It just means you become honest. You don't punish the false self. You understand why it formed. You thank it for trying to protect you, but you stop letting it lead your life. Because the false self will always choose the familiar cage over the unknown doorway. It will always say, stay where you know how to survive. But God may be saying, come where you can finally live. And that difference matters. Survival is not the same as life. Control is not the same as peace. Attachment is not the same as love. And the version of you that knows how to endure suffering is not necessarily the version of you that knows how to receive joy. Sometimes, the old self has to loosen because it cannot enter the peace you have been praying for. In real life, this may look very ordinary. It may look like not texting someone again just to prove you still matter. It may look like allowing silence to be silence instead of turning it into a courtroom in your mind. It may look like not forcing an answer when life has not given you one yet. It may look like walking away from the version of yourself that always needed to explain, defend, and perform. Maybe you have been clinging to a relationship because without it, you don't know who you are. Maybe you have been clinging to an old dream because releasing it feels like admitting failure. Maybe you have been clinging to anger because anger gives you identity, direction, and a reason to keep the wound alive. Maybe you have been clinging to anxiety because anxiety makes you feel responsible, even when it is destroying your peace. Letting go does not mean you become passive. It does not mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you let people mistreat you. It means you stop making your identity depend on what you cannot control. You take the next honest step. You breathe. You pray without demanding. You act without obsessing. You grieve without rebuilding your whole identity around the grief. And slowly, you begin to notice something. You're still here, even without the thing you thought you could not lose, even without the answer, even without the role, even without the story you kept repeating. Something remains, and that remaining presence is closer to your real self than the fear ever was. Letting go feels like losing yourself because the ego cannot imagine life beyond the identity it created. But God can. You are not being asked to disappear. You are being invited to stop mistaking armor for essence. You are not losing the truth of who you are. You are losing what fear convinced you to become. And yes, that can hurt. It can feel empty at first. It can feel unfamiliar. It can feel like standing in a room where the old furniture has been removed, and you do not yet know what belongs there. But emptiness is not always abandonment. Sometimes emptiness is space. Space for God. Space for peace. Space for the self that does not need to be held together by fear anymore. So if letting go feels like losing yourself, pause before you panic. Ask yourself, which self am I afraid of losing? The false self built from fear? Or the deeper self that has been waiting underneath it? Because one must loosen for the other to breathe. If this journey spoke to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone ready to experience life beyond thought. Comment below. What part of yourself are you learning to release so something deeper can finally breathe? I read every comment. If you would like to support my work directly, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/magnumopus333. Or you can explore some original merchandise at my Teespring store online. The link is in the description below. Or perhaps consider becoming a channel member or sending me a super thanks. Any support is greatly appreciated. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.